$47 million in his bank account, but Alexander Chen was sobbing like a broken man at his wife's grave. The rain soaked his $3,000 Armani suit as he whispered apologies to the marble headstone. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I failed you." His hands trembled as he placed white roses on the grave, the same flowers he'd brought every week for 6 months. Then two small voices pierced through the storm. "Daddy?" He spun around, heart hammering. Two girls stood shivering under a torn umbrella, maybe 6 and 8 years old. Their clothes were dirty, their shoes had holes, but their eyes, those eyes looked just like his. The older girl clutched a crumpled photograph. "Are you our daddy? Mommy said you'd be here." Alexander's blood turned to ice. The photo showed him with a woman he barely remembered from one desperate night 5 years ago. What happens when a grieving billionaire discovers he's been a father all along? The tech mogul who built a fortune creating apps that connected millions couldn't connect the dots of his own life. Alexander Chen, CEO of NextGen Technologies, had everything money could buy, except the one thing that mattered. His wife Sarah had been his anchor, his reason for breathing. Cancer stole her 6 months ago, leaving him drowning in a penthouse that felt more like a mausoleum. Every night, he'd stand on his balcony overlooking Manhattan, clutching Sarah's wedding ring and wondering why he bothered waking up. The company ran itself. His bank account grew by thousands daily. But what's the point of wealth when you have no one to share it with? The girls before him were Emma, 8, and Lily, 6. Emma's fierce protective stance reminded Alexander of himself in boardrooms, small but determined. Lily hid behind her sister, sucking her thumb, her other hand gripping a tattered picture book about princesses. "Our mommy Jessica went to heaven 3 days ago," Emma said with the devastating matter-of-factness only children possess. "She said if anything happened we should find you. She said you're good people." Alexander stared at the hospital bracelet Emma held out, his name listed as father on both girls' birth certificates. His mind raced back to that night 5 years ago, his bachelor party 1 week before marrying Sarah. He'd been drunk, heartbroken after a fight with Sarah, and Jessica had been the bartender who listened to his troubles. One mistake. One night that seemed meaningless then but created 2 beautiful lives he never knew existed. "This is impossible," he whispered, but deep down he knew it wasn't. The girls had his dark eyes, his stubborn chin, even the way Emma tilted her head when thinking. The rain intensified. Lily started coughing, a wet, painful sound that cut through Alexander's shock. These children were sick, hungry, and alone. Whatever questions he had could wait. "Get in my car," he said, surprising himself. "We need to get you somewhere warm." "What do you think Alexander should do? Take them in or call social services?" Alexander's penthouse felt different with 2 small bodies curled up on his Italian leather sofa. The girls ate soup like they hadn't seen food in days, which he realized with growing horror they probably hadn't. While they ate, Alexander called his lawyer Marcus. "I need an emergency DNA test," he whispered from his study. "And find out everything you can about a Jessica Martinez who died 3 days ago in Queens." Emma appeared in the doorway, startling him. "You don't believe we're yours?" The accusation hit harder than any hostile takeover attempt. "It's not that simple, sweetheart." "It is for us," Emma said quietly. "Mommy showed us your picture every night. She said someday when we were big enough she'd bring us to meet you. But then she got sick from the bad medicine and now—" Her voice cracked. Alexander knelt to Emma's eye level. "Tell me about your mom." Emma's story unfolded like a tragic novel. Jessica had raised them alone, working 3 jobs, cleaning offices at night, waitressing during lunch, bartending on weekends. When Emma was 7, Jessica started using drugs to stay awake for all those jobs. The spiral down was swift and merciless. "We lived in our car for 2 weeks, Emma whispered. "I told Lily we were camping. She likes stories about adventures." Alexander felt something crack inside his chest. While he'd been building his empire, these children, his children, had been surviving on the streets. That's when Victoria Chen arrived. Alexander's sister strode into the penthouse like she owned it, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor. Victoria had always been jealous of Alexander's success, constantly scheming to position herself as his heir since he and Sarah never had children. Well, Victoria's voice dripped venom as she surveyed the girls. "How convenient. Sarah dies and suddenly you have heirs." Her husband David, a shark lawyer in an expensive suit, followed behind with a briefcase. "This requires immediate investigation, Alexander. Think about your reputation, your board of directors." "They're children, Victoria," Alexander said, but his sister was already circling like a predator. "Children who appeared with perfect timing," Victoria sneered. I'm calling Channel 7. Let's see how your investors feel about this scandal. No, Alexander said quickly. The last thing he needed was media attention while the girls were so vulnerable. What do you want? Victoria smiled, cold and calculating. A trial period. 30 days. If these children can adapt to our world, fine. If not, they go to proper foster care where they belong. The words made Alexander's stomach turn, but Victoria held all the cards. One phone call to the media would destroy everything he'd built. The girls would be thrust into a circus of cameras and questions. And I'll be monitoring every step, Victoria added. Any problems, stealing, lying, violence, and they're gone. Emma had been listening from the kitchen doorway. Alexander saw her small hands clench into fists, her jaw set with determination. She'd heard the challenge and he knew she'd do anything to keep Lily safe. Fine, Alexander said, hating himself. 30 days. What would you do if someone threatened your children? Type protect if you think Alexander made the right choice. The first week felt like guerrilla warfare. Victoria enrolled the girls at Pemberton Academy, Manhattan's most exclusive private school, knowing they'd never fit in. Emma came home with bruised knuckles after defending Lily from classmates who mocked their thrift store clothes. They called Lily trailer trash, Emma explained matter-of-factly as Alexander cleaned her cuts. So I made Tommy Henderson eat dirt. Emma, you can't solve problems with violence. Why not? It worked. Alexander couldn't argue with that logic, but Victoria pounced on the incident. See? Violent tendencies. It's in their genes. That evening, Alexander found Lily sitting by the window, tears streaming down her face. Do you not want us, Daddy Alex? The question shattered him. Why would you think that? The mean lady said we're broken. That you're only keeping us because you have to. Alexander pulled Lily onto his lap, his throat tight. You're not broken, sweetheart. You're perfect. Then why does she hate us? How do you explain adult cruelty to a 6-year-old? Alexander settled for, some people are afraid of change. But change can be beautiful. The DNA results came back positive, not that Alexander needed confirmation anymore. These were his daughters. The way Lily curled up next to him during bedtime stories. How Emma fiercely guarded the last cookie to save for Lily. Their laughter filling corners of his apartment that had been silent for months. But Victoria's sabotage escalated. She hired a private investigator who dug up Jessica's arrest record, petty theft when she was desperate to feed the girls. Victoria waved the police report like a weapon. Criminal genetics, Alexander. They'll destroy everything you've worked for. Their mother was desperate, Alexander shot back. She was trying to survive. And now they're your problem. Unless you wise up. The breaking point came during week 3. Emma had been stealing food from the school cafeteria, not eating it, but saving it in her backpack for Lily in case they suddenly found themselves homeless again. When Alexander discovered the hoarded sandwiches and fruit, Emma's explanation broke his heart. I need to make sure Lily doesn't get hungry. What if you change your mind about us? That night, Alexander sat on his bed, staring at a photo of Sarah. What would you do? He whispered to her image. How do I protect them from Victoria and still keep them safe? In the silence, he could almost hear Sarah's voice. Love them like they're yours because they are. But Victoria wasn't finished. She had one final, devastating move. During week 4, an expensive diamond bracelet, worth $15,000, was found in Emma's backpack. Victoria discovered it during a surprise inspection, gasping in mock horror. She stole from Mrs. Patterson next door, Victoria declared. I knew this would happen. Emma's face went white. I didn't take anything. I don't even know what that is. Explain how it got in your bag then, Victoria demanded. Emma couldn't. She just stood there, small and helpless, while Victoria documented the evidence with photos. Alexander felt the world tilting. He wanted to believe Emma, but the bracelet was right there. His business instincts warred with his heart. I'm disappointed, Emma, he said quietly. The words hit Emma like physical blows. Her face crumpled, then hardened with devastating finality. You never wanted us anyway. You're just like everyone else who promised to help and then threw us away. That cut deeper than any boardroom betrayal Alexander had ever faced. The next morning, social services arrived to take the girls. As the caseworker explained the foster care process, Lily clung to Emma, sobbing. I don't want to go. Please, Daddy Alex. Alexander stood frozen, torn between his heart and his fear of Victoria's threats. This was exactly what his sister had orchestrated, breaking him down until he chose his empire over his children. But as the social worker reached for Lily's hand, The little girl whispered something that changed everything. Emma didn't take the shiny thing. I saw the mean lady put it in Emma's bag when she was sleeping. Do you think Alexander will realize the truth in time? What would you do? Time stopped. Alexander's blood roared in his ears as Lily's innocent words sank in. What did you say, sweetheart? The mean lady, Lily pointed at Victoria. She put the sparkly thing in Emma's backpack yesterday when Emma was napping on the couch. I was getting water and I saw her. Victoria's face went chalk white. That's ridiculous. A child's imagination. Security cameras, Alexander interrupted, his voice deadly calm. My penthouse has cameras everywhere. For the first time in her life, Victoria Chen looked genuinely terrified. Alexander pulled up the footage on his tablet, his hands shaking with rage. There it was, clear as day, Victoria creeping into the living room while Emma slept, sliding the bracelet into her backpack with calculated precision. You framed an 8-year-old child, Alexander whispered, his voice barely human. Victoria's mask finally slipped completely. I did it for us. For our family's legacy. These street rats would have destroyed everything our parents built. They're my daughters. They're nobodies. Victoria screamed. Just like their drug-addict mother. You think board members want a CEO whose children are charity cases? You think investors will trust someone who? Alexander stepped forward and Victoria stumbled backward. For a moment, she looked exactly like the scared little girl who used to hide behind him when their father got drunk and violent. But that sympathy died when he looked at Emma and Lily clinging to each other. Get out, he said quietly. Get out of my home and never come near my daughters again. Alexander, please, I'm your sister. You're nothing to me. Victoria lunged forward, desperate, and shoved Alexander hard. He stumbled backward toward the stairs, his foot catching on the top step. For a suspended moment he saw Emma's terrified face, heard Lily scream, Daddy, and realized with crystal clarity that these children loved him unconditionally. Then he was falling. The world went black. Alexander woke up in Mount Sinai Hospital with two small hands holding his. Emma sat on one side of his bed, Lily on the other, both girls red-eyed from crying. You came back, Emma whispered. I thought you were going to leave us like everyone else. Never, Alexander croaked, his voice barely working. I'm sorry I didn't believe you about the bracelet. I'm sorry I let her hurt you. We forgive you, Daddy, Lily said simply. We love you. Those 4 words healed something in Alexander that had been broken long before his fall. Dr. Rachel Martinez, Sarah's best friend and the hospital's head pediatrician, appeared in the doorway. Alexander had wondered why she'd been checking on the girls so often. There's something you need to know, Rachel said gently. Sarah knew about Emma and Lily. Alexander's heart stopped. What? She hired a private investigator after your wedding. Not because she didn't trust you but because she loved you completely, including your mistakes. She'd been secretly supporting Jessica financially for years, making sure the girls had food and medical care. Rachel pulled out a letter with Sarah's handwriting. She made me promise to give you this if anything ever happened to her and if the girls needed you. Alexander's hands shook as he read Sarah's final words. My darling Alex, if you're reading this, it means our daughters need their father. Yes, our daughters. I've loved them from the moment I knew they existed because they're part of you. Don't you see? God knew I couldn't give you children, so he gave them to you another way. Take care of them. Love them. They're my gift to you. Tears streamed down Alexander's face as everything clicked into place. Sarah hadn't just known, she'd been protecting his children for years. The mysterious Good Samaritan who'd paid Jessica's hospital bills when Lily had pneumonia. The anonymous scholarship fund that helped Emma start school. The food deliveries when Jessica lost jobs. It had all been Sarah. She brought us together, Alexander whispered, looking at his daughters. But Victoria wasn't finished destroying his life. While Alexander was unconscious, she'd gone to the media with a twisted version of events, claiming Alexander was an unfit father, that the children were traumatized and violent, that his judgment was compromised by grief. The story hit every major news outlet. Tech billionaire's secret children. Scandal or sympathy? Alexander's phone buzzed with calls from board members, investors, journalists. His carefully built empire was cracking under the pressure of public scrutiny. Will love be enough to save Alexander's family and reputation? What do you think he should do? Alexander made a choice that shocked everyone. Instead of hiding from the media circus, he called a press conference. Against his lawyer's advice, against conventional business wisdom, he decided to tell the truth. The conference room at NextGen Technologies was packed with reporters, cameras and flashing lights. Alexander took the podium with Emma and Lily beside him, their small hands in his. "My name is Alexander Chen," he began, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "6 months ago I lost my wife Sarah to cancer. 3 weeks ago I discovered I have 2 daughters I never knew existed. I failed them for 8 years by not knowing they were alive. I failed them again by not believing in them when someone tried to destroy them. But I won't fail them anymore." The room erupted with questions, but Alexander continued, "These are my daughters, Emma and Lily. Their mother Jessica raised them alone while working 3 jobs to survive. She never asked me for help because she didn't want to complicate my life. But Sarah, my wife, knew about them. She'd been secretly supporting them for years because she loved them as part of me." He paused, looking down at Emma and Lily. "My sister Victoria planted evidence to frame Emma for theft because she was afraid these children would threaten her inheritance. She was right to be afraid, not because they're criminals but because they're the best thing that's ever happened to me." Emma squeezed his hand. "You don't have to do this, Daddy." "Yes, I do, sweetheart. The world needs to know how amazing you are." Alexander faced the cameras directly. "I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm asking for the chance to be the father these girls deserve. If that costs me my company, my reputation, or my fortune, so be it. They're worth more than everything I've built." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Social media exploded with support. #DaddyAlex trended worldwide as people shared the story of a billionaire who chose love over empire. Investors, instead of fleeing, praised his honesty and character. The company's stock price actually rose as consumers connected with the authentic human story behind the corporate facade. But the real victory was smaller and more precious. That evening, Emma helped Lily draw pictures of their new family, stick figures of Alexander, herself, Lily, and an angel labeled Mommy Sarah watching over them. Lily's artwork covered Alexander's penthouse walls, replacing sterile corporate art with crayon masterpieces. Victoria faced consequences for her actions. The planted evidence led to fraud charges. Her husband David filed for divorce, taking half her assets. The inheritance she'd schemed for was gone. Alexander had already rewritten his will, leaving everything to Emma and Lily's futures. Victoria's final scene was pathetic and alone. She sat in a cramped studio apartment, watching Alexander's happy family on TV, realizing she'd destroyed herself pursuing wealth that was never really hers. Meanwhile, Alexander transformed his life completely. He restructured NextGen to focus on apps that help families in crisis. The Sarah Chen Foundation launched with $10 million to support single mothers and orphan children. Emma thrived in a new school where her fierce loyalty was channeled into protecting younger students from bullies. Lily's artistic talents earned her first-place ribbons in every contest she entered. 6 months later, Alexander stood at Sarah's grave again, but this time he wasn't alone. Emma and Lily placed fresh flowers beside his white roses. "Thank you for bringing us to Daddy," Emma whispered to the headstone. "We're taking good care of him now. Do you think Mommy Sarah can see us?" Lily asked. Alexander smiled through his tears. "Every day, sweetheart. Every single day." That afternoon, a social worker called with news that changed everything again. 3 more siblings, ages 4, 6, and 10, needed emergency placement. Their parents had died in a car accident, and they had nowhere to go. Emma and Lily exchanged looks, then nodded at their father. "We have room," Alexander told the social worker. "We have lots of room. What do you think their next chapter will bring? Should Alexander keep expanding his family?" Alexander knelt between Emma and Lily as they planted new flowers at Sarah's grave, bright yellow daisies that Lily insisted would make Mommy Sarah smile. "Do you think she's proud of us?" Lily whispered, her small hand covered in dirt from the garden soil. "She brought us together," Alexander said, his voice thick with emotion. "That's all the proof I need." Emma wrapped her arms around his waist. "We're not perfect, but we're family. And family doesn't give up on each other, right?" "Right," Alexander promised, meaning it more than any business contract he'd ever signed. As they walked away from the cemetery hand in hand, Alexander's phone buzzed with a message from the Sarah Chen Foundation. Over 200 families had applied for adoption assistance programs they'd launched. Children across the country would find homes because Sarah's love had rippled outward through Emma and Lily's story. The 3 new siblings were arriving tomorrow. Marcus, age 10, and twins Sophia and Diego, both 6. Emma had already started planning welcome gifts, while Lily drew pictures of their expanding family for the refrigerator. "Daddy?" Emma asked as they drove home. "Do you think we can really help all those kids find families?" Alexander looked in the rearview mirror at his daughters, brave, beautiful, and full of hope despite everything they'd survived. With hearts like yours, we can change the world. What do you think their next chapter will bring? Should Alexander expand his family even more? Do you believe every child deserves the chance Emma and Lily got? Like if you believe in second chances. Share if you think love really can conquer everything. Comment with family if this story made you believe that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that prove kindness still exists in this world. Blue Heart Sparkles.